now. KNT in the ticket. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. This is Inside the Huddle with Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Fires a pass, and it's intercepted by the Huskers at the 25, Jay Foreman. And Foreman takes it down to the 19-yard line of Oklahoma. Another big play by the Blackshirts.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
Good morning. It's a little crisp morning there, Harrison. Appreciate everybody again. It's Inside the Huddle. Jay Foreman, brought to you by, Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. They can help remedy any and all your pain ailments. They have done great by me. I appreciate their support and the game plan that they've worked with me. And will continue to work with me. It's almost like, Austin, for me, I would tell you what, man, as an athlete or former athlete, obviously, but, I always try to tell guys, be wary of your doctors just because you just never know what their intentions are. And so when you find good people, you tend to almost like, it's like, like how they say, if you, feed like a stray cat, they'll be there. Mm-hmm. That's me. Like, hey, I got this going on. I just want to I need my own Jay Foreman wing over there because they've done, really good job by me and for my body, to kind of feel somewhat tolerable. And so, I definitely never wanted to, go the opioid route. But Inside the Huddle, we are knee deep into football fall camp, training camp, NFL fall camp for colleges. So football is right around the corner. Had the Hall of Fame enshrinement last night and the Hall of Fame game Thursday. So this is, that's officially the kind of like the kickoff to the football season, both college and the pros. But, obviously we're here in Lincoln. We're going to focus on Nebraska. Matt Rule finished his first week of fall camp. So it's the real deal camp. Obviously he was here in the spring. But, I call that the funny time where you're just trying to get yourself introduced to the team and introduced to these fishbowl of Nebraska, but now you're coaching in coaching for all the marbles. This is when they're going to start keeping score, and the score is for real. That means everything that you do is has to be accounted for every single day, every single hour, every single meeting, meal. And he had his first 6 practices. From what I've been told, they were very well organized, physical practices. Everybody got a ton of reps. He's done something, which is pretty cool to kind of up the, development process in doing a little bit of a split practice that kind of flows over into each other. So everybody's getting a ton of reps. So everybody's moving, kind of more like how, Coach Osborne and what we did back in the day. So you can always kind of keep that development piece going on throughout the whole season. So I'm sure during the season might be a little bit of a condensed version, but you're not going to have guys go weeks and months in practices without doing football activities and getting better potentially. And so what that does is it gives people, or makes it, more onto the person, or it's personally your challenge to become a better player. So if you choose, if you're not starting and you are on a scout team for the offense, and if you're on a defensive player and you don't work hard, and then when it comes time for you to play, the Nebraska defense, whether you're scrimmaging or in your condensed practice during the season, then that's your personal choice to not take it seriously and not develop. And that's what, Matt Rule has said. He wants everybody to come and earn it every day, come to work, and work isn't quote unquote work if you love what you do. It's going to be hard. Nothing in football comes easy. And from what I've been told, the camp has been, they've worked them pretty hard. The weather's been somewhat tolerable, but it's been very humid. And they've been outside the whole time. It's been a physical practice, even when they've been in half pads, and they've done I think they did a simulated kind of scrimmage yesterday. Came out pretty healthy, except for the only one was Teddy Prohaska, got a little banged up, but That's kind of been his bad luck since he's been here. And so, he's just got to get healthy so we can get out there and, hopefully reach his potential. But, my assessment of Matt Rule and staff is that they've continued to, be action oriented, Harrison. And what I mean by that is, look, what people, what we've soon came to realize here at Nebraska, when we've had new coaches, they're going to come in and win the press conference. They're going to do everything in the spring, and it's going to be kind of kumbaya. And then when it comes down to when, live bullets are flying, then there is all of a sudden now everybody got excuses. Matt Rule obviously probably was, of all the press conferences, I'd probably say Matt Rule was number one, Scott Frost was number two. Scott Frost is number one, Matt Rule number two, or 1A and 1B. The difference is I think if that whole staff has been action oriented, and that just comes from experience. I will say this: they have some really good self-awareness, and self-awareness is understanding where you are, the landscape of the program, understanding what it needs, and then trying to go about it in a daily basis of trying to fix it or try to remedy it. And that's what they've done. And his practices are, kind of like a pros where, they're very spread out, but very, detailed, some half line drills, very physical. And it doesn't, and, you're not out there just lining up, going goal line for 3 hours. It's very strategic where you got to be physical, and then they back off, physical, then back off. So hopefully it'll lead to game time success. The one thing that I thought was interesting, Harrison, is that when he talked about the coaches and where they're at right now, of course, I think he's only spoke twice. Obviously, he spoke the first day and then obviously Saturday. And, he kind of, one thing about Matt Rule, he knows how to, or at least from my opinion, he's knows how to back the media off a little bit.
Yeah. He knows to work the mic. He knows what he's doing. That's one thing Scott Frost, everyone gave him a hard time about, but it's going to bring unnecessary pressure if you don't know how to handle the mic. And Matt Rule's handled it well every time.
They're doing it Matt Rule's just saying it a different way. So, for instance, it doesn't have to do with Scott Frost, but to say you ask a coach and he's like, man, I'm not talking about depth charts right now. We're just trying to practice, right? That gives you like an abrasive type of, answer, and that's how you're going to receive it. Where he said, look, I just told the coaches, I don't need you to be a GM right now. We just need you to coach. See how much easier that is to receive, and see how the message is the same? He essentially is telling you, I don't want to talk about the depth chart. I've told the guys that are control the depth chart just to coach and not worry about it. Right? So then that gives you something right there. And then he went into the detailed about different positions. And then what he does, if you look at it, he gives you different nuggets. The guys that he's talking about, whether it's Luke Reimer, Nick Heinrich, those guys are their leaders where they're willing to play a little bit of scout team. They talked about the defensive line. Ty Robinson talked about Nash. And then the name that, he threw in there was Blaze Gunnarsson, where he hasn't played a lot, hasn't done much, played well at times in spot duty. But he talked about it. Then he talked, glowingly about Isaac Gifford, which was interesting because people asked him about Miles leaving, going in the transfer portal. Looked like that door has been closed. And he talked about Isaac Gifford. He talked about Singleton. He talked about Omar Brown. He talked about Phelan Sanford. He talked about a number of guys by committee to play not only Miles' position, but then also hold it down until Buford's fully healthy. So if you really take time and listen to what Matt Rule is saying, he'll give you some answers or give you like a glimpse into the future or a glimpse into what they're thinking. If you just take the time to listen to him. And he's not lying to you. He's just kind of just going off the cuff. He didn't have to tell you about Gifford. He didn't have to tell you about, he's telling you the reasons. He's getting you prepared for when you see 23 out there. A lot. Right? Now, whether he plays well or not, that's on Isaac. But as of right now, he's impressed the coaching staff enough he's going to be out there. He said he's physical, said he's tough, said he's all in, said he's a good leader. Then he went into, 36-inch vertical, 10-foot broad jump, and all that. So he's letting you know, look, he's a 4.5 guy as well. So he's got so get all the preconceived notions about being from Lincoln Southeast and having to walk on a gray shirt or whatever, the previous staff did with him until he was on scholarship.
Right.
He's going to be out there playing. If he's not starting, he's going to play a huge position. And he said this also. I think somebody asked him, or no, Matt Rule like willingly said, look, last year they had him playing more of like a linebacker, Sam. He's like, oh no, he's going to be back there and playing safety.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he told you a lot with certain positions in reference to Miles Farmer leaving, and maybe that was part of the reason. So those conversations are different. You
think about that. He's getting called an alpha, and you realize he's playing that safety position. Right. You can kind of connect the dots. I mean, we don't know if that's why, but could add to it.
What happens is, and I've only way I've been a part. Well, I've been a part of it when. I saw it when Coach Bull came in, but it's not to this magnitude, right? Coach Steele left, Coach Bull came in. So Coach Bull had to adjust and come in with us. So that was a little different. So I can only reference when in the pros, when a coach gets fired and then new staff comes in, there's always that anxiety because the new staff wants their type of players. But in reality, you have to understand they can't come in and just have a new team. There's not enough players. You know what I'm saying? Especially in the NFL. You're not going to be able to go accumulate 53 new players and get rid of good players that are here. Because what people don't realize is this majority of instances where you come to a losing program or a losing franchise football-wise, they still have good players, right? So just thinking if you pick, when Cleveland Browns, when they got a new head coach, you got Myles Garrett, Chubb, you got good players there. You just might not have a quarterback. You had some good linemen. You had like Alex Mack there, some really good linemen there, and had some other guys on defense. You just didn't have maybe the structure or guidance. And so from a player's perspective, you're always kind of you're in that like no man's land until you figure it out. But what you have to do is just go in there and establish yourself over again. You got to work hard. You got to kind of be a rookie again or a freshman. You got to be first in line. You got to be first there, last out. You got to play the game within the game because these coaches or a coach can get a first impression of you, and that'll be the lasting impression. And so if they feel like, guys aren't all the way in, well, they know that was part of the problem. Individual play, individual mindset, got you 3-9, 4-8, and the coach fired. I mean, that's the way it is. Now, whether that was cultivated through circumstance or the culture or just an individual choice, at the end of the day, when they've taken over this team, they don't care. They don't care about the circumstances. They're going to want you to do what they need to do from start of when their tenure and while they're here. And so if you're not in that situation, or if you're not bought into that situation, whether you like it, love it, or indifferent, then you could be on the outside in because there's going to be enough guys, right, that are going to dive into the weight program, dive in and start to do the new things that they were doing as far as the conditioning and stuff like that, and catch up to you or pass you by. And then so when you have those conversations, if you're a said player with a coach, the conversation could be a lot different than from the very first conversation you had with them, I'm assuming in January. Things can change that quickly, right? So you can come in, hey, I'm going to give you a chance. I know you played here before. I watched a little tape. I know you're a good player, but there's a lot of stuff you need to improve on. It's up to you. All right?
Well, we do have one from text line, too. And Spot Cow asks, Jay, is Fleeks back? Looks like he was in scrimmage yesterday. I didn't read anything on that. Is Fleeks back? I haven't heard anything about that yet.
I had heard he was.
Okay.
I don't really know. I wasn't there. I think
he was in that video though.
Yeah, I think he had that reality check. Got him in and woke him up a little bit. Yeah. Bobby Knight said, "Look, man, the bench will start to clear things up," and I think he got the message. And whatever he had to do outside of football, conditioning wise, I'm sure he did it. I'm sure the disappointment from Matt Rule and McGuire or the way he showed up at camp. And sometimes that's all you need to kind of have a come to reality or self-awareness check. And so I know during camp, like when somebody gets hurt, you can get one guy in.
Yeah.
So he was probably at the top of the list. And obviously with Miles being gone, he moved up even faster. So it's good to see him back. He's still got a long way to go because, again, Matt Rule talked about the wide receivers, right? He talked about the young guys that are just coming in. They are fast because a lot of them are track guys. They got legitimate track speed.
Yeah, they got speed.
Now they need to get bigger so they don't get broken half going out there in the Big Ten, but you know where they are. Then the veteran guys, you got, when you think of Xavier Betts, Washington, Kemp, those three, and I know I'm missing another one. There's another receiver
what are the names you gave so far?
So it's Xavier Betts,
yep,
Kemp, Washington. There's another receiver he mentioned. So those are your top four, it seems like right now. And so for Fleeks was supposed to be in that top 4 or 5. You're on the outside looking in, and then he already told you there's going to be some young guys. And also what you don't realize is if somebody does well and they can use that as 4 games, you can kind of piece together like a full season with your freshman class. 4 games here, crossover, 4 games for another one, crossover, 2 games. Oh, well, you need to get better at this, or you're struggling at this, or we don't need you at this. And then you can piece together a nice little season without messing up the flow of the offense. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where Fleeks, I wouldn't say he's in trouble, but you got to really work, dude. Like, you're going to have to really dedicate. Like, today is not a day off for him. First of all, you ain't done nothing all week.
Yeah, okay? You're playing catch-up already.
You're playing catch-up. So today is a catch-up. This ain't a day for you to sit there and relax because you played in a simulated scrimmage. And so, it's an intense time. I think it'll be interesting to take what Coach Rule said yesterday and compare it to next Saturday, and then the following Saturday. You start not that his message is going to be different, like his body. I mean, he's still going to be him, but it's going to be more and more intense. He's been through this before. He knows the first week of camp, getting your feet wet, coaching everybody the same. They already know who had a good summer or a great summer. He feels very he feels very confident in it. He's told me personally that these guys deserve to win because they actually have a good locker room of guys.
That's what I liked. I liked what he was talking about the seniors, not just seniors, but the upperclassmen in general, saying they're tired of it. Like, they're sick and tired of it too. Like, I don't have to get on these guys about changing their ways. Like, they're willing to be coached because they're tired of it too. So that was kind of, I think the blend in the locker room is coming together pretty well. It sounds like you got enough veteran and the young guys. Then listen to Anthony Grant talk about the running backs. I don't know if you caught that, but he was just talking every single one of us is going to be a threat. So it kind of lets me know, like, the running back room's mind's right. Like, they're all rooting for each other, which is good to see. But we do got a couple more from text line I want to get to.
Yeah, mine ain't on it. You're going to sign me in here during the break.
Okay, over the break, I'll plug you in real quick. But 7543 asks what happened to Teddy Prohaska. Did I hear he got a setback? Yeah, I believe he did get hurt. And Matt Rule said it's something too serious. He should be back for week 1, so we shouldn't miss any games or anything. And then the basketball fan, was it Isaiah Garcia Castaneda? Was that the 4th one?
Yes, that's the 4th one. Yes, I appreciate that. Fan. Yeah, I should have. There's 2 guys that left and came back. Yeah. As far as Teddy, I don't know what it was. He didn't get into specifics, which I respect about Coach Rule, and obviously you want to make sure to who knows, it might have been an ankle or something like that. But for him to be back and potentially be available for the first game lets you know it's not something that's gonna shelve him for a lot of a long period of time. So that's good. Just what they're doing now and where they're going with it is led by those older, guys now, whether they're seniors or COVID juniors. And, Harrison, you weren't here, but when I was down on the team and I was talking to, in the offseason, I was telling, on the radio with Old School and any other shows where from my perspective, that when the young guys came in and there were some older guys, not all of them, some older guys were on their own plan and they were faking it till they make it. I mean, they knew how to make it look like they were working hard. They said all the right things and made it look like they could say all the things. They really weren't team oriented guys, but it's great because they were great quotes and all that. But then you had these young guys, right, that really, really wanted to win and knew some of the things that they were seeing weren't right, but they weren't in position to say anything or even to change it, right? Because they just had older guys had it set. Now you have these are the older guys.
Mm-hmm.
So where you could be in a really good position is if Nebraska could somehow get to a bowl game this year, led by these older guys, these younger guys see the work, then you'll start churning out, consistent seasons. And whether it's Nick Heinrich, Luke Reimer, Isaac Gifford, Ty Robinson, Quentin Newsome. You can't forget about Quentin. I think Quentin Newsome is a guy on this defense that's probably your best defensive player that doesn't get talked about enough. You don't hear about him much.
Yeah.
He played the best last year, most consistently all year. He played really consistent the year before. That's a dude that really wants to win and knows what's right and what's wrong and is a worker and has gotten better. Buford, even though he's hurt, is still the leader back there. He is an ultimate football player. He's I call him a Swiss Army knife. He can play slot. He can play either safety in the box. He'll play special teams every day. When he walks through those doors, he's competing. That's what you want. And he's a great locker room guy, and he's a great kid. And you know what I mean? So he's a guy that's a glue guy that every coach, no matter if it's Urban Meyer coming in here or Matt Rule or Jay Foreman, like I keep saying, like you got good players and good people in this locker room. So if you think you're going to come in and just jettison 120 guys or 100 guys and think you're getting 100 new ones and think you're just going to start, winning trophies, that's it. You got to really dissect who wants to be here. And so you have some guys that are there and want to be here and see Nebraska get back to where it's at. And that's what I think I continue to do it. Give credit to, Mickey Joseph and staff, or the new staff that took over halfway through the season or 3/4 of the season. Mickey Joseph, Bill Bush, and all those guys, Kenny Wilhite, they did a really good job of refocusing these guys, holding them accountable. I mean, obviously they would have liked to have been here, and obviously there's other situations that probably led to them not being here. But they coached these guys the right way, both by accountability and what they went about for the last 8 weeks, that set it up literally on a platter for Matt Rule and staff to come in and have a pretty smooth transition. You know what I'm saying? And that's what that's a lot of times when you have a coach get fired in week 3 or after week 3, defensive coordinator week 4 gone, two kind of guys that have been there and place, some players felt very close to emotionally. We've seen Ernest Hausman was already pretty much thinking about the portal once Frost and Shenander was gone, and also Coach Rude. That then you have an intern coach in Mickey Joseph who galvanized not only the team but the whole state. There's some things that went on outside of the football stuff that didn't help out, obviously, and then Matt Rule being named the coach, I think within 24 hours after you finally beat Iowa. That's a lot of transition. Generally, it's like I always say, like sometimes when stuff like that happens in the pros, it's like you turn the lights on and the roaches just scatter. Just everybody just leaves. You know what I'm saying? Well, in this case, a few, some guys went to the pros when they probably shouldn't, and so forth and so on. But then when you have good guys in there, they're sticking it out and they're seeing it. And there's probably some. Even some of the guys that stuck out, they're probably in the wait. They were waiting to see. I think as time has went on, like Matt Rule said, and also he's done, is as much as those players have to earn his trust, he's got to earn their trust, right? Man of his word. One thing that was really interesting, I don't know who said it, but it was right after like winter conditioning and in spring. It was like we've seen Coach Rule more than we've seen the past coach in a month than 4 years, which is every day they're seeing him. So you got to think, Harrison, if I'm trying to get a message through to you, right? Or I'm delivering. I want you to be this. I want you to buy this. And you see me every day. That's just getting etched into your mind and into your body and how you work every day. So, in conclusion, the first week was pretty good. They got a day off today.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting if everybody stayed in the dorms today or they scatter back to their apartments for a day.
Yeah, Matt Rule must have went back on his word. Did you see with the water balloon? I can't remember which player it was. Player broke the water balloon over his head, and he said no off day this week.
Yeah, I think they have today off, and so they got a little rest and relaxation. But I'm gonna tell you what, when you have a day off in camp before we go to break, this day goes by so quick. It's like
I believe it. The work they're putting in,
the clock goes by fast. You're thinking like, I got a whole day to rest. And pretty soon it's going to be 6 p.m. and they're going to be thinking about, thinking about Monday. So this is Jay Foreman Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and talk about Big Ten expansion, the ACC, what they're going to do. I don't know if we call them the PAC conference now. There's only 4, right?
Yeah, it's limping along.
Yeah, it's limping along. And if the SEC is going to make additions along with the Big 12. Jay Foreman will be right back. This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
A Shiro's work is never done. You care for the house, the kids, and our future. We're so grateful for all you do. Now it's time to care for yourself and save a little more for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to boost your retirement savings now. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro today.
A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Veterans, do you know what local, state, and federal benefits and services you're eligible to receive? Do you want help navigating the application or appeals process? Speak to your county veteran service officer or the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs State Service Office to see what's available to you and your family. You've served our country, now let us serve you. Visit veterans.nebraska.gov today. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
I heard you and Jack had a disagreement.
Yeah, he says I keep things from him.
What are you going to do?
He loves the Nebraska Lottery's Powerball First Millionaire of the Year promotion. So I'll buy a Powerball with Power Play and Double Play ticket before August 14th, and I could be one of 15 winners of $1,000. I'll also be entered for a chance to win a trip to New York City for New Year's Eve and a chance at $1 million.
$1,000? That should make him happy.
Depends.
On what?
If I decide to tell him I won.
Powerball top prize odds, 1 in 292 million.
You play Lucky for life, don't you?
Yeah, love it. Chance to win $1,000 a day for the rest of my life.
How does it work?
Choose 6 numbers and buy a ticket.
Then what?
Check your numbers after the nightly drawing to see if you've won.
Whoa, slow down. You lost me there.
Choose 6 numbers.
6 numbers, got it.
Check the drawing.
Whoa, how do you remember all that?
Just lucky, I guess.
Lucky for life, top prize odds, 1 in 30 million.
On the block with Strick and Austin.
Donnie Nelson kind of was doing a little, backyard boogieing with
Mark, on the side
with Mark Cuban in the back rooms. Moves are being done and things are happening to which you don't really know about. That seems to me what happened in this situation. Things were going on, conversations was being had at the highest levels, and you're not in on the party.
Weekdays from 2 to 4 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
I know that a lot of times, Mom, it might not seem like I'm listening to you, but I am. I hear you. And what you say really does matter to me.
I mean, let's be honest. No kid likes rules, but I get why we have them. I hear you, and I know it's because you care.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Sponsored by DHHS and aired in cooperation with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People Seeding Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
Back to Inside the Huddle, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging. Here is your host, Jay Foreman.
We are back. I want to thank Nebraska basketball fan for letting me know it's IGC, man. And I appreciate early morning. IGC is back in full effect. We're going to see if he's back with a vengeance. But we're moving on to what is essentially taking over college football is the expansion of the Big Ten. I thought, look, getting USC and UCLA, whether, Kevin Warren going out of kind of his, dropping the mic, and that would have been good. Then that there's going to be potential up in the, what every team would get because it's probably going to increase the TV deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then the new commissioner comes in and says, we're going to take it up even further. We're going to get the two probably best football schools out of the Pac-12.
Definitely the biggest brands.
Besides Utah. Utah's been the best team the last two years. But Oregon has one of the biggest brands in the nation, bar none. And Washington's brand on the football field has been up there as well. People forget that Washington was in the college football playoffs.
Yeah, not too long ago. And Oregon is an established program. You got to think they have Mario Cristobal, and they got Dan Lanning up there, and they're in pretty good footing as far as their brand of football. And I think Oregon and Washington, they're Pac-12 teams or whatever you want to call it now. We're Pac-12 teams, but they play a physical brand of football. And both of them this year, have two Heisman candidates in Bo Nix and the quarterback that transferred from Indiana, the lefty, I forget his name, Michael Penix. So they're set up for success this year and to leave the conference and come into the Big Ten, on a high note. So when the Big Ten can go and get the four most prominent schools out of the Pac-12 besides Utah, 4 of the 5, right, out of the Pac-12 in 1 year, that's a good part of expansion. That lets the Big Ten knows that they are in a quote-unquote arms race with the SEC, knowing most likely if the ACC breaks up, Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and probably North Carolina will go over there. So they got to be ahead of the curve, right? Yep. If they don't go to, I want to ask you this: if the ACC doesn't, if teams somehow get out of their contract, they got a contract that was signed in like the back of a pool hall with the mafia there, like in, signed in blood. Like those exit fees are enormous for every team. Mm-hmm.
It's like you essentially were, going to end up with nothing if you try to pay the exit fee. I want to ask you this. If there's somehow the ACC kind of breaks up and still stays the ACC, but the big ones leave, do you think they all four go to the SEC, or do you think the Big Ten tries to nab a couple and get that footprint there in the Southeast? Because you got to think we're the Big Ten, right? You got the Big Ten regular country.
I
right?
think you got to grab some land down south.
Right.
You think about it now you're going to be able to get players from the West Coast. Just like you talk about recruiting, it's advantageous too. And like right now, we got all the Midwest and the West Coast. When it comes to college football playoffs, like I don't know if we're still going to be able to compete with the SEC. It's like the SEC versus the rest of the U.S. at this point. So
Right.
I think you probably do your best to try to get some of those schools as well. That's what I would do. I mean,
yeah. See, I think I look at it a little different, right? I felt like when Urban Meyer came into the Big Ten, it upped everybody. Now we needed another up, and the SEC is very strategic, right, with their scheduling, right? They know they come in, and granted, with Alabama and now Georgia and LSU one year, you do have the perception that you're the best, right? And you get Cam Newton with Auburn that year. You'll have Ole Miss that upset Alabama, the Johnny. So you have that, right? Plus Texas A&M is in there. Came in there. And now you got Texas and Oklahoma coming in, which seems like an afterthought. But the way they've scheduled things is strategic, where they only have to get up. Alabama's really got to get up for like 2 games. LSU, Georgia, if they play each other. Now you can't fall asleep, and you got to go. You can't go and miss a field goal against Tennessee and play the worst game defensively you played all year, right? Generally, beat Tennessee. So they are always set up to be, in the top 3 or 4 going into the SEC championship. Whereas like in the Big Ten and the ACC, the depth of the contract or of the conference and the season rankings, which really plays into it, because if you start as a top 10 preseason team and you lose only 1 game, maybe 2, you're still going to be top 25. So if Clemson plays you or doesn't, or if Alabama plays you, then that's better for them to, when you look at their strength of schedule versus if you're on the outside looking in preseason 40 and you lose a game or 2, you're not getting in that top 25. So that doesn't help Clemson. It doesn't help Miami. It doesn't help North Carolina, whoever would be one of the teams coming out of there. Now, when you have the college football playoffs expansion, which is probably going to get expanded again very shortly, that allows you to, but it's going to be filled first with SEC teams. So I don't think the SEC will be so quick to add a Clemson, right? To add maybe if a Florida State and Miami start to have a good year, to where they could see, okay, this is serious competition. You know what I'm saying? Because that's why they like their model. They know they control the college football right now. They've won it. You have when you think of who could possibly win a national championship, it's either Georgia or Alabama. Both of them. Now, just imagine that. Georgia and Alabama right now. Those are the 2 probably front runners.
Yeah, that's fair.
Both of them don't have a starting quarterback. Now, if there's a team that you would think that you probably say, okay, I think they can win it, of all the teams that were in the college football playoff last year, it'd be Michigan. You got J.J. McCarthy. He played the best out of all. Like he's the most established out of anybody of the last 4 teams that were in there. He's gotten better. He has a whole off season. So you would say, okay, Michigan's probably the favorite. Not even a thought. Everybody's still like, okay, you beat Ohio State a couple years. This can't go on forever. So they're not even getting the respect in the Big Ten. So if Sankey and those, they're like, oh, let's just chill, right? Because then here comes LSU, right? They probably have the best quarterback out of those, say, LSU, Georgia, and Alabama, right? Throw Tennessee in there. They have probably the best draft eligible quarterback. Oh, let's go a little bit farther. Let's just say South Carolina plays like they did starting that Tennessee game moving forward. They got Spencer Rattler, a.k.a. the redhead kingpin. So why would you expand? I'm asking you, why would yeah, you could, yeah, Clemson, you're great. Okay, that's fine. You got Dabo and all that. Yeah, Dabo, Clemson would probably take him because then you would really be having the perception rankings locked down.
So you're saying if you're SEC, there's no need.
No need.
You're
Why?
just holding tight because you're winning already.
We're winning already. We control everything. I would say if I'm saying, I would say, okay, Tennessee, you probably, if they're so arrogant, they probably say if Tennessee went up to the Big Ten, they'd be Big Ten champs. LSU goes up there, they'd be Big Ten champs. If both those teams go to ACC, they'll be Big Ten champs or ACC champs, or in the conversation. So why do I need to bring in Florida State and Miami? Now being confident is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
That confidence, when you become a little bit ignorant to where you're at and where you're gonna have a downturn, right? It's just that's just the way it goes. If you don't forecast for that, then you can become ignorant, and that's where the Big Ten needs to pounce.
Mm-hmm. We got one from the text line. Mustache said there's no way the Big picks up any of the deep South ACC schools, maybe Pitt or Louisville, but no way they'd get FSU or Clemson.
West Mustache. I don't agree with that, my man. I appreciate you texting in, and I do see what he's saying with the deep South. It's very hard. I mean, it'd be very, very hard to pull a Clemson for sure.
Yeah.
Because of where Clemson's situated, so close to Bama. I mean, Clemson's more of a SEC team than all the other ACC teams. You know what I mean?
You'd be a Big Ten surrounded in the SEC country.
Right.
You'd be really sticking out there by yourself.
Now, I think you could get FSU if you could get Miami.
Yeah.
Or you can get Miami if you get FSU. I think you could get him. It would have to be a sweet deal, though.
You got a bundle deal?
Yeah, 2 for 1, right? Yeah, buy one, get one free. And then I would ask you, Wes, so you could text back in, do we really want a Pitt or Louisville?
No, those are schools. Like if that's what we're going for, I don't think we.
Well, you just let them stay in the ACC, and then they kind of move on. Then they kind of be, and that's still a good brand.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe North Carolina stays there, so they can be the big dog in football there, and Duke stays there. If I'm thinking, if I could get, let's just take Clemson out. If I could get an FSU in Miami, then I'm really going to try to be a big dog and get Duke in North Carolina. And I'm fine with that. And you know what? If in order to get those 4, I got to take a Pitt. I got to take a Virginia Tech. All right, that's cool.
Well, we only think about it for football too, but you throw in you get Duke, North Carolina.
Basketball's
about to turn
right.
up.
Right.
You're gonna have
and all those other sports too that will expand it too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you're gonna have to go down there, you're gonna if there's 2 that you want, they're like, all right, you gotta take these 2. You know what I mean? It's like I've heard stories of coaches going to recruit a player. All right, I can help you get him, but you gotta take Johnny with it, man. You know what I'm saying? And Johnny can't play a lick, but Johnny's gonna be on scholarship too. And so you better be okay to take one. But here's also, Harrison, I want to ask you real quick before we go into our last break. Man, this goes by too quick. Also,
we haven't even gotten to the Big 12 yet.
Yeah, we ain't even got to the Big 12. We're going to say that for next week. But I want to ask you this, and this is what I would be doing.
Okay.
And this is where nothing is imminent, but in the future, you're going to have like these 2 power conferences, right? Or 2 perceived, like say 2020, both of them. What'll happen is Big Ten will have 24, ACC or SEC will stay at like 18, just because they think like, okay, we got 18 better ones. Do you start to regulate or deregulate some lower half teams, the Northwesterns and all them?
Ooh, that's a good question. So you almost like Premier League style, where you're like those teams that aren't performing, they're starting to get penalized.
Because you got to think they're not going to willingly leave these. I mean, why would Rutgers and all them leave? They're getting so much money, right?
Yeah.
It's helping them, and ideally, this TV money is helping them, and then they'll get the facilities and all that other. So they become. But what people really have forgotten, there's just not that many good football players out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You're not. I mean, Rutgers isn't going to ever have a roster like Ohio State. They're not that many people out there unless you start cloning kids, right? Which probably they're trying to do somewhere.
I honestly don't think you can. A process like that in college football, it feels like it'd just be too chaotic.
Oh man, people's
college
feelings would be
football
hurt.
is quick. Turn of the book. Next season could be completely different.
People's feelings would be hurt, but that's what I'll be doing though. Or okay, if I gotta work out something.
They might not be in the Big Ten if that took place.
See, Harrison, that's what Harrison. See, as Matt Rule has said some stuff, I was thinking it, but I didn't want to say it. But it cranks up the pressure, though.
It does a lot.
I like that, though.
Yeah, because
I think Nebraska's in good footing, anyways. And Matt Rule said that, but I would trade a Rutgers and a Northwestern to the ACC for a Pitt and Louisville, though.
Mm-hmm. Chubby Rhino says regulate Northwestern. You mean the team that has won the West more times than Nebraska? Well, we did just mention that Nebraska would be on the way out the door if that came to play.
Yeah. I would regulate Chubby Rhino. Here's why I'd regulate Northwestern. And they've won the West more than Nebraska. But Pat Fitzgerald is gone, and Northwestern's football program is no longer as you thought it was. It is over. They are on the modern day version of the death penalty.
They got a harder rebuild than the Chicago Bulls right now. It's going to be brutal. You're starting from ground zero with that culture because you got
Northwestern. You got. I know we're going long. Who wants that job? And whoever's going there is literally going to collect a check.
Every time you go to recruit a kid at Northwestern, you're going to have to say why you're different. That's going to have to be like your opening statement every time. Like,
well, it's not that. It's the school.
Academics are
academics. They're pulling back the money on that new facility. Now they have a great facility now, but the stadium ain't getting redone. I mean, there's going to be coaches that would go there, but like I said before, and I'll keep this short before we go into break. Most coaches that are successful right now, that you would think that that would be perfect there, have already done situations like that. So the first person that comes to mind of Northwestern, I'm thinking David Shaw because he did it at Stanford.
Okay.
David Shaw has already went through that, and he already been at a private university. It's just kind of just Northwestern, Stanford right there, right? But he's done it already. He's great on TV. Why would you want to start all the way over at a toxic situation?
Yeah,
at Northwestern.
Possibly
the president might not be there. Who knows? The athletic director is going to be there unless they're going to make you the athletic director and coach.
Yeah, you still got to go through the court cases.
Right, court case. You're going to be hearing about it. Why would you want to do that later in your career? You're going to have to find somebody David Shaw-esque to come in there and do it. And these type of coaches are not easy to come by because these type of coaches or with that type of resume like to get paid and don't like that type of work right now, whether coaches want to say it or not.
I think the coach fixed Northwestern. We don't know his name yet. Yeah, I think it's gonna have to be a guy off the radar because you're not going to land a big name. No one's going to want to sign in on that.
You're going to have to get somebody and just deal with it. And I don't know who wants to deal with it. I mean, I guess I'd go there, but you want to pay me a few million, I'll go there. But we're going to break and we'll come right back with a short segment, and then we'll send you off to your Sunday. Jay Foreman, Harrison, Inside the Huddle. This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket every Saturday morning now in our new time. We're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
Summer is over. It's time to settle into your back-to-school routine. I'm Jenny Benson, president of the Nebraska State Education Association. As teachers, we're excited to see our students again. Parents, help your child. Set a time and a quiet place for homework and establish bedtime routines so your child will be rested and ready to learn. Help us make a bright new beginning for our students this year.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association in this station.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes, their age, the way they speak? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job,
not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? Or a 14-year-old girl who signs up to every after-school activity, not to make friends, but just to get something to eat? Or a retiree who fell ill and had to choose
between getting medicine or groceries.
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. People you pass by every day but never knew were hungry. I am hungered in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People Seeding Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
You're listening to Inside the Huddle with Jay Foreman, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
We are back. Last segment. We got about 5 minutes, Harrison, if that.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
5 minutes. We're max. So
You'll
it'll probably be about 4. Anyways, we didn't get to the Big 12. Big 12 made a little bit of noise. They got Arizona State. Who else? They get Utah,
Arizona State. Arizona State, Utah. I think that's it, right?
Yeah, and they've already had additions before, right?
Mhm.
They had UCF, Houston, and so in BYU, I think, right?
BYU, yeah.
Yeah, so they've done the Big 12 quietly has established themselves or potentially put themselves in position to be depth-wise on nipping on the heels of the ACC of being number 3 behind the Big Ten and an SEC.
Mhm.
Now, they don't have a Clemson on their roster, as far as like a national champion or being in discussion for a national champion. But they have depth now and good football. And the one thing about the Big 12, I like what they've done. Everybody that they've brought in fits their brand of football. Arizona State, I think it helps them as far as, spreading their brand, because Arizona is kind of off the beat path. When you think of like Arizona football, you think of Arizona State, Sun Devils,
Yeah.
and in Arizona, people just kind of
You think about basketball.
right. You think about basketball, you definitely don't think about football. So I think it's going to help them. BYU, I think, is always I think they are always a sneaky good competitive team. Now you got Utah, so you got the heated rivalry there. You're just kind of just adding a bigger platform for them. You know what I'm saying? And then you got UCF, Houston. You know, they play that same type of football as Big 12, Oklahoma State. Now we know Kansas State is kind of like they're not the norm of being physical, but Kansas State puts the ball in the air too. And now they were able to be, really productive this year, and now they upset TCU. And then you got TCU. Are they for real? But TCU in general is a throw it all over the yard type of team, and speed and fast. And so I think what the Big 12 has done brand wise is would recover very, very well after losing their two bell cows, and that's Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, they've recovered, in my opinion, very well. They were very well, and they were ahead of the mark of the Pac-12 at the time, where they were going to emerge. They said, you know what, you guys don't even have your business together as far as your TV contracts, and maybe they saw the chinks in the armor as far as the Pac-12 leadership, because it comes down to.
That's a good point. I forgot that was even discussion at one point, and they saw.
They probably saw the commissioner. They probably saw the dynamics of it. Maybe heard some rumblings that USC and UCLA were going to be gone, because these deals are probably floated out there in conversations. It
didn't come together in one day.
Yeah, it's
probably
not 2
over
weeks.
the course of the year.
Yeah, 6 months
over the summer.
Right. You put it in their ear, and then you don't have a TV contract. Remember that conversation we had over coffee, or just bypass.
Still,
what do you think? Still interested? Yeah. Let's set a time to do a Zoom. Next thing you know, we're together. So the Big 12 did a really good job of diverting and really just going a different direction, because I think they weighed it, right? They said, look, they forecasted the Pac-12 is going to struggle, right, because of everything. Then they say, you know what, we can add these teams over here that have raised up their level of play and brand, and Utah and all them, and then we can, we'll take three good teams from the Pac-12 eventually. They'll come to us anyway, probably on the cheap. So I think they won both ways, and their leadership needs to be commended, especially after getting the rug pulled out from Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah, they pivoted real quick,
and they were smart and strategic, and they didn't lose themselves, and that's something that needs to be commended. But this is Inside the Huddle, brought to you again by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Hit them up, Dr. Raz, Dr. Finn. Appreciate it. Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, here with Harrison. We'll holler at you next weekend.